All right, we are back on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. Carter, how we doing, man?
Good, man. Good. It's a nice little hump day Wednesday. Got some more college football on tonight. Just grinding through the week, getting ready. Obviously holidays coming up. We got the end of the college football season. A lot going on right now. So it's been a good week, man. Though I've been just normal stuff, man. Just going through it. My daughter had an art show yesterday, so I got to see some of that and just everyday stuff, man. But it's getting exciting. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of college football. Excited to continue on and see how everything plays out. But what about you, man? How's your week going?
Good, good. Got back from Pittsburgh, hopped on the show with you guys a little bit. Just doing the everyday life and getting it amped up, getting ready for this weekend, a big weekend. It seems like the every weekend that we're winding down the season, it seems like every weekend is a big weekend for us over here on the show.
Absolutely, man.
So yeah, with that being said, we got the Maction on tonight. The Bobcats of Ohio taking on the Toledo Rockets, and we got Eastern Michigan taking on Buffalo. So
Oh, yeah, baby.
yeah,
Let's go Bobcats.
yeah, this
I,
might determine who plays in the MAC championship.
yeah, I know. I think Toledo was favored by 1.5. I think I saw, but the money line was basically a pick 'em, even money both sides. So hey, BL, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you tuning in. Happy to have you. But yeah, exciting stuff. And obviously, as we come down to the end of the year, we have this weekend where there's a few good games. Obviously, you have Indiana, Ohio State. You have some other, decent matchups. Notre Dame, Army is a big one. But the SEC, for the most part, takes this week off. This is the old go play the Citadel and Mercer and all those schools as you get ready for your rivalry week. Although Alabama did play Mercer last week so that they could have Oklahoma before Auburn, which is a change for them. And then obviously next week is rivalry week. You got the game up in Columbus with Ohio State, Michigan. You got the Iron Bowl. You got all the big time rivalries. And then the following week is Championship Saturday. That's when we're going to find out who the conference champions are, right? And there's going to be a lot at stake in those games for a lot of teams. Obviously, first round buys are going to be at stake. Making the playoffs could be at stake, which we'll talk about a little later. Is it actually at stake, or do those games not really matter for the college football playoffs other than getting a bye? But on that Saturday, December 7th, we do have a live show coming to you live from Cigaro Lounge in Hubbard, Ohio. It's going to be me, Duke, and Richie, or Duke, Richie, and I swear I went to school. Duke, Richie, and I are going to be out at Cigaro on noon on Saturday, December 7th. Let me put the graphic up for everybody to see and get the info, but it's going to be a lot of fun, man. I was talking to the owner not too long ago, a couple days ago, and he was talking about the setup they're going to have for us and kind of what we're going to do. We're going to have some cigars, some bourbon, a bottle of bourbon, and things like that we're going to be enjoying as we do the show and as we watch the Big 12 kickoff. I believe is at noon, and then followed by the SEC at 4. Big 10 is going to be at night. ACC somewhere in there. Obviously, you'll have the American, I think, plays Friday night or something like that. But majority of the games are going to be Saturday. We're going to be out there. They have all kinds of TVs, cigars, full bar, liquor, beer, everything you can want. So it's going to be a blast, man. We're going to be out there December 7th again. It's going to be all over social media, everything like that. But if you're in the area up in Northeast Ohio, definitely show out. Come say what's up. Come grab a stogie and kick back and watch some football with us. And if you're not out east, if you can be, if you don't have anything going on, come up, man. It's not that far. I live in Columbus. It's not that far. I'm going to go up there Saturday morning, probably stay the night Saturday. So we'll be out there all day. And then, into the night, watching football, hanging out. So definitely, come hang out with us, say what's up, and have a good time.
Yeah, and also Cigaro is fully stocked. If you follow them on Instagram, They got a whole big shipment, I think like 7 or 8 different boxes of cigars that they just got in. So hopefully those the new products will be in stock, and they're always getting new stuff. The owner does a really good job posting on
And
Instagram.
I saw there actually the day before December 6th. So if you're going to be in the area for the weekend or something like that, December 6th, I think they're having their Christmas party, which they're going to have all kinds of entertainment and live music, I believe, and things like that. So it's a great place to go. So I'm really excited for that one. That one's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to try to have some giveaways and things like that if people show up and show out. Let's see what BL has to say here before we jump into it. Future topic idea: why do idiot fans spend their earned money to go see a sporting event then leave before the game is over? That's a good question. I've been on both sides of this. I got to be honest with you. I've been the guy that's like, why are people leaving? And then I've been the guy that. So let me preface this by saying I've been to a lot of Ohio State football games in my life. So when I go to an Ohio State game and it's a blowout and I'm like bored, I'm like, let's get out of here and go have fun. Especially if it's not like a meaningful game. But ZD, because I wipe my ass with my money. There you go. Hey, if you got it, hey, live it how you get it, right? But no, I agree. And I've also been at Notre Dame Stadium when people I was there.
Okay, let me clear the air on this one.
Yeah, I think somebody. I think I know somebody who was recently at a Penguins game as well.
Yeah, well, it went into OT, and my son was asleep.
Let him sleep.
And it was. I drove all the way to Pittsburgh, then went to the Pitt game, and then ran around town, and then as soon as it went into overtime, I was out.
Overtime?
Yeah.
I can understand if it's 7-0 entering the third period. Like, okay, yeah, let's get out of here. But you dipped out on overtime?
I dipped on overtime. I'm a fly-by-night NHL fan. I couldn't name. We got to see the new rookie that a lot of San Jose people showed up to Pittsburgh to see that kid play from all over. There was a bunch of. We had 5 or 6 guys that had flew in from somewhere in Canada, I believe somewhere in Ontario, like Upper Ontario, to see this kid play because they wanted to see him play. I mean, whenever it comes to hockey, that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess whatever you got to do, man. But that's crazy. I didn't know he dipped out on overtime. That's insane. But a crazy thing about Canadians, not making a generalized statement or anything, and then we'll get into it. But dude, do you know it's cheaper for Canadian hockey fans to go to games in America a lot of times? Like when the Maple Leafs come to Columbus, it is like 80% Maple Leafs fans. And I went to a Maple Leafs Blue Jackets game once, and I was talking to this guy he's from Toronto, lives in Toronto. I was like, dude, why do you come all the way down here? Like the Blue Jackets sucked that year. I was like, why are you all the way down in Columbus to watch the Leafs take on a shitty Blue Jackets team? He was like, dude, it's cheaper for me to travel from Toronto to Columbus, get a hotel room, buy a ticket, than it is for me to buy a ticket to a Leafs game in Toronto.
That's fair.
And I was like, oh, all right. Well, I guess, sure, why not then?
That's the same principle that Ohio State and Michigan fans use kind of whenever they play Indiana and Purdue.
Why they go to Indiana instead of going? Yeah, but I think Ohio State fans go to all of it. But anyways, I just thought that was interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we get started, ESPN has confirmed Seth McLaughlin out for the season, torn Achilles.
Yeah, and we'll jump into that in a minute here in more later on in the show about that, and we'll discuss that. But I did know that was confirmed, and I have a little intel on who's going to be replacing him and everything like that. But as we always do, we start out with kind of headlines or social media trends that are going on. Sometimes in college football, sometimes not. This is all college football related, but I know you saw it, and anybody out there, if you haven't seen it, the Central Michigan coach, Jim McElwain, former Florida head coach, announced that he is going to retire today. Why is this news, Duke?
Well, there is something that's going to probably be coming out in the next couple of days related to and we don't have to rehash the whole Stallions and the Michigan thing, but I think it's very ironic that he's retiring. They didn't have the greatest year. I don't think things were going great up there. They had a little bit of staff turnover throughout the year, so I think it was just time. And 15 years ago, Jim McElwain was the Kirk Cignetti of college football. He was one of the hottest names. I think he won 10 or 11 games at Colorado State, and then got the Florida job, and it just didn't pan out. And then I believe he went up.
Fucking disaster that was.
Yeah, it was just not. It was a different culture shock. So McElwain didn't end up. It didn't pan out well there, and then I believe he hooked up with Harbaugh and was at Michigan for a while, and then he got the Central Michigan job because Michigan and Central Michigan are pretty interwoven. A lot of the boosters are fairly friendly, and I think that was whenever a certain head coach tried to get a guy that got fired recently a job at Western Kentucky, begged Western Kentucky to take him. So
yep, I mean, here's the bottom line about it, and it is interesting timing. Obviously, there's an investigation going on, and Central Michigan is involved, whether they want to be or not. And all I can tell you is this screams of, yeah, he's guilty. He knew Connor Stallions was going to be on the sideline for that game that he was on the sideline for, whether Connor Stallions remembers being on the sideline or not. And him knowing and having knowledge of that and approving it was going to be a major issue for him. It was going to cause probably a 1-year show cause or something like that. And he went, you know what? I've made enough money. That Florida contract was real nice. I'm just going to dip. Serve my 1 year. If he wants to get into back into coaching, maybe he could after, but he'd still have to serve that year, right? It doesn't just go away.
No, he'd have to serve.
He's probably done.
Most likely done, or unless one of his friends gets a job. There's been a list of firings through the Group of 5 level. We had Tom Herman met his demise.
Titty bar Tom.
Tom met his demise. Biff Pierogi, I believe is his name. He was another guy that came out and was one of the architects at Michigan. Didn't go well there at Charlotte.
Don Brown.
Yeah, Don Brown.
Stan Drayton.
Yep, Stan Drayton. But, Temple. Yeah, Temple. And for the Stan Drayton thing, like, Temple's a hard – Zach coached there, and Temple is hard.
Yeah, so I know a bit about Temple. Zach was only there 1 year, but Tom's going to Wisconsin to be the OC. I don't foresee that. I don't think Luke and Tom is like a marriage that would work personally, and I think Luke knows Tom a bit and would probably not like that. I think he's got a better chance to go to Michigan, but who knows? Anything could happen. But as far as Temple goes, yeah, Temple's a tough place to go. Obviously, Matt Rule had some success there. There's been some coaches that have been able to be successful. It's hard to recruit there. It's not in a great area. I liked, the campus was fine, but you're literally practicing across railroad tracks from some of the worst areas in Philadelphia. but it's not a great place to build a program. So Stan, I think, always had his work cut out for him there. But you're not going to see a lot of firings in the Power Five, but you're going to get them in the Group of Five still.
Well, we've talked about this House versus NCAA, the Ross Dillinger article about the scholarship limits, and I seen the clip from Matt Rule today, and he says that he's going to have to let go about 45 guys at the end of the year. And is it going to be impactful? I am totally against. I know this is off topic. We got to keep it moving, but I am totally against getting rid of the walk-on program.
Yeah.
At any Power 5 institution, just for the simple fact of you're taking opportunities away from kids. And also, when you cut, and not all those kids are scholarship kids, so when you cut about 40 people not paying full tuition at the university, that's a big deal.
Absolutely. I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how it works. But one guy who is not on the hot seat and is actually competing for an SEC title is new Texas A&M head coach Mike Elko, who they face off with this week. Is it Auburn?
I believe they have Auburn.
Yeah, so he's facing off with Auburn this week, and he's going to tell you how focused they are on Auburn. Let me put the clip up here. This is an interesting clip, and it's kind of funny. This is him talking about, because obviously after this week they have their rivalry game with Texas, which is going to decide if they make the SEC title game or not. And here's him talking about how his team's going to stay focused.
Oh, no audio.
The audio's not working?
I can't hear it. If somebody in the chat can say if they can hear it or not. But
anyways, damn. That's weird. I wonder why that audio didn't work. Sometimes you download a clip and the audio just doesn't work for some reason. But anyways, he's asked a question. The question is, as hold on, stop sharing. There we go. What, Carter? No, it's producer Ed, Zach. It's producer Ed that fucked it up. I didn't do shit. But he's asked, obviously they made the Texas game a night game. A lot of attention's being paid to the November 30th game against Texas. How do you keep your guys focused? And he said, well, I think our team's very focused. We're on the task at hand, blah, blah, blah. All our focus right now is on Texas. I mean, Auburn. That's what he said. And I was like, so you are focused on Texas.
Well, here's another little advent. We've been talking about, the ratings and stuff for Big Noon and all of that mess that Fox has created. What do you think does more numbers that day? Ohio State, Michigan, or Texas A&M?
I guarantee Ohio State, Michigan. I would bet my life on it.
It should. But
it absolutely will. Ohio State, Michigan does more numbers than every game that day every year. It doesn't matter the record.
I think they should play the Iron Bowl at noon and play Ohio State, Michigan at 3:30 because the year that it was played at 3:30 the night, and it was a great game and all of that. Well,
it also pissed off everybody in Ohio State fan base minus like 10%.
Yeah, but I'm just saying.
I have no problem with the Michigan game being at noon. That's when it should be. That's when it has been. It's the only game that I think shouldn't be moved around. Put it at noon every year. It has to be the last week of the season. It used to be the week before Thanksgiving. Now it's the Saturday after. That's fine. Don't move that game. because I know there's people talking about, oh, you can play it in October. Fuck that.
No,
it needs to be the last game of the year. It needs to be at noon, and just let that be. But other games, Penn State, Indiana, all those other games, those can be night games. That absolutely they should be. But that game should be at noon. But yeah, I think Elko is definitely focused on Texas a little bit. He doesn't want to let it out, and that was just a Freudian slip. But since I brought up Indiana, obviously Indiana got ranked. I know you don't believe that. That's the funny part. But Indiana obviously was ranked number 5 in the playoff rankings. And now the thing is they were 5 last week, and you didn't hear a lot of noise about them being 5. But as we get closer to the end of the year, you're starting to hear the national media, and specifically ESPN and the SEC gaggers, putting out this narrative about Indiana and how they think it's ridiculous the thought that an 11-1 Indiana team could make the playoff. Which, first of all, they haven't lost a game yet. So saying 11-1 is disrespectful to start. They still could beat Ohio State this Saturday. That game hasn't been played. Everybody's acting like it's an automatic loss.
Yeah, but some of the things that I watch and see, the biggest thing is that for the Ohio State fan base, this is why you play the games. And if you think you're going to sleepwalk and walk through them, I'm not saying, you see a lot of the stuff, but
yeah. It's just, and so this is what the mainstream media is pumping out already. You can see it. Indiana, lovable Cinderella, or college football playoff nuisance. An 11-1 Indiana with no quality wins may get in over a team like Tennessee. Rage.
Well, when me and Richie talked about it,
2 games.
Yeah, because see, here's the issue. They were saying that if you pull up the Texas quality wins, they had Arkansas in there for Texas, but on key losses, they had a key loss for Tennessee. How does that make any sense? That doesn't make it. Doesn't it? See, this is the, and this
They're
was something
speaking out both sides of their mouth.
And this is something that I don't know if we talked about it on air or not, but we had that discussion the one night. We went round and round, and I said, a 10-2 Tennessee, if all things go well, if they get left out, people are going to freak out. If 11-1 Indiana gets in,
yeah. The bottom line. So here's and not to echo the same thing that somebody else who I know closely has said, but you want to know how you can guarantee yourself a spot in the playoff? Don't lose 2 or 3 games.
Yeah,
it's not that hard. Like if you have 2 losses, you can't complain. Like you absolutely have no reason to complain. You left it up to somebody other than yourself. That's nobody's fault. Like Indiana shouldn't get penalized because you can't beat Arkansas. I'm sorry, beat them. And as far as like Texas's best wins, Texas's best win right now is either Michigan or Vanderbilt. They both suck.
I think that when it comes to the Vandy thing, and they only beat Vandy by a field goal, I don't think Texas was in danger of losing that game. But see, the problem is that is this is Feinbaum's remarks?
Just more bullshit about it. But yeah, keep going.
But Feinbaum has an agenda. It's all about who writes his paycheck, and he's going to do what Paul Feinbaum's going to do. In he's kind of sounding like the message boards.
Yeah, like his opening statement. This committee is not serious. Okay, well now I know you're not really talking facts. Like, can't tell me with a straight face that they think Indiana, Penn State, Miami, school like that are better than Georgia. Well, I don't know. I think Penn State and Georgia are damn near the same thing.
And Carson Beck has a bad game, and then Tennessee got dominated by Georgia. And I seen today Portnoy put like $100K on Alabama to win it all. And I think that it's shaping up so much like an NFL playoff model. It's going to be who catches fire in the playoffs.
Yep, I agree completely. And this is the only argument I've seen that makes it make sense. And first of all, that's sarcasm, and this is obviously a joke, but here's what SEC people want you to believe, or want you, like, this is the SEC has 52 wins over SEC opponents, while all other conferences combined only have 8 wins over SEC opponents. Meanwhile, the Big Ten has 65 losses to Big Ten teams, and the SEC only has 1. It's funny, right? Like, obviously they're trolling, but
I just think this whole conference thing with Indiana's schedule, Indiana doesn't make the schedule, the Big Ten does. It's not Indiana's fault that they play 6 of the 7 bottom dweller teams of the Big Ten. It's not that, and Purdue's a protected rivalry. That's just like, in years past when Ohio State had to do the whole crossover game thing, and they would get like Minnesota when they were awful after Jerry Kill left, and they would get, like a struggling Wisconsin team, and it's just like, well, they can only play who's on their schedule, and then because of the realignment, screwed up all the non-con stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, but it's just crazy that they're already pushing this narrative. First of all, they're assuming Indiana's going to lose Saturday, which there's some news out of Buckeye Nation that we'll talk about after we reset the show and everything. But to just give them an L, first of all, they could go undefeated.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and you saw what that did to Ohio State's schedule this year. Ohio State was supposed to have a better non-conference schedule than they had this year, but the schools they scheduled joined the Big Ten, so they couldn't play them anymore. So
yeah,
you got to stop doing that. And they don't do the Big Ten schedule that far out. That's mostly just non-conference. But I agree. Stop schedule. Like, the fact that we have opponents in like 2032 for Notre Dame and for Ohio State right now is absurd. Like, the landscape of college football in the next 8 years is going to be totally different. So to think that Ohio State's going to play Alabama at home in 2030 is ridiculous.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. But the only one of the, I'll give Notre Dame the grace because they have no conference.
Yeah, they have a lot more flexibility. But if they're scheduling like who'd they just schedule? They scheduled SMU, right? Well, if the ACC disbands and SMU ends up in the SEC or something, that game's gonna get canceled.
Yeah, because
however it works out,
because the SEC's looking at going to a 9 conference games, and
they're already at 9, I think, right?
No, they're at 8.
Oh, that's right. It's the Big Ten and ACC that are at 9.
Yeah, so
okay.
I just feel
they
like
absolutely need to. They have too many teams to only play 8. It just this is what you get. You get 6 or 7 schools with 2 losses, and nobody knows who the hell should play for the championship.
And going through the majority of this year, you could make an argument for everybody being, Georgia's looked bad at times, Alabama's looked bad at times, Ohio State hasn't looked great at times, Oregon hasn't looked great at times. So at this point, I think the playoff is going to sort everything out. We'll just have to see how it shakes out. But let's reset the show here before we get to that Ohio State news. If you're out there watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and join in the conversation. We got people in here commenting and all that stuff like that, and hit the like and subscribe button and help us grow this show. And then we got the live show in Hubbard, Ohio coming up December 7th. So we got a lot of things going on, and if you're in the area, come pull up and hang out. We're going to have cigars and bourbon. So with that being said, just give us a follow, and all the links are in the bio, and we're also on Spotify, PodBean, and Apple Music. So with that being said,
absolutely,
give us a follow.
Thank you, Zach. I've worked hard on my lighting. No, I just we got some ring lights for the live show, and I set one up here in my little basement studio, and got a new camera. So I'm working on it. As the show grows, so does the experience. All right, but obviously, big news out of Ohio State today. Be remiss if we didn't talk about it. Really detrimental. Seth McLaughlin, the starting center for the Buckeyes, transferred from Alabama. Really, he got named to midseason All-American list. He's been playing excellent, really kind of, I won't say the heartbeat of that offensive line because I think that's Donovan Jackson. But he's an integral part of that offensive line. Went down in practice yesterday and came out and was confirmed today that he tore his Achilles. He's going to be done for the year, obviously. Really, really tough to see for a kid that was doing really great things and I think had a future in at the next level. And I hope this doesn't derail that future too much. I think he was a mid-round pick, like a third, fourth rounder. So hopefully this doesn't drop him too far. And I think if it does drop him, somebody could be getting kind of a diamond in the rough if they pick him up in the 5th or 6th round. But obviously, prayers out to him for a speedy recovery. From all reports that I've heard and everybody I've talked to at Ohio State, really great kid. Came in and was a leader from day one. And so hate to see that happen to I hate to see that happen to anybody, obviously. But it just stings a little more when it's somebody who you believe is doing all the right things and was on a trajectory that he was. Obviously, a lot of question marks now for the Buckeyes at that offensive line position. Also, a lot of question marks about why this is happening so often at Ohio State. There's a lot to be said about the turf at Ohio Stadium and in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. I don't know. It came out, it was non-contact. So it wasn't like it was during contact periods or anything like that, which makes you believe even more so that maybe the turf had something to do with it. And it's been reported. I can't confirm. Obviously, Seth isn't going to say it and Ryan's not going to say it. But it's been reported that Seth has complained about tightness in his Achilles and his legs recently practicing on that turf. Just to let everybody know, the turf that is in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and at Ohio Stadium is, I believe it's called slit field turf or something, whatever it is. It has been banned by the NFL. The NFLPA made that part of the collective bargaining. And then after it was banned, Gene Smith made the decision to transition and put new turf in both facilities. And it was this turf that the NFL said leads to too many soft tissue injuries and wasn't safe for players. Take that for what it's worth. I'm not saying the turf is the reason that these injuries keep happening. It's just, you got to question it, right? And obviously Gene is no longer with the university, so easy to blame him, easy to point a finger at him, easy to say you fucked this up. And if Ohio State were to go out and lose because of their center play, Buckeye fans are going to be pissed. But all in all, and I know Buckeye Nation right now, I'm in a lot of circles that have a lot of Buckeye fans, right? So I hear everything from the most drastic, Ryan Day should be fired because Seth McLaughlin got hurt, to the most realistic and the most logical of, all right, injuries happen. But where do you stand on it, Duke? What do you think?
Well, watching games on Saturdays at Ohio State, I think there's a turf issue. It's because if you go and watch any Ohio State game, regardless if it's the Buckeyes or it's the opposing team, you never see that many people slip on turf. More than any, like the last week when Will Howard fell down, He literally was not touched, and he slipped on the turf. I think the turf is an issue. I know Travion Henderson has had issues of falling down. When Ryan Day got really big into running the stretch run, Trey would fall down at least 2 or 3 times a game. And it's, when you're saying you're a serious university, in which Ohio State is a serious university, why wouldn't you just get new turf?
So, yeah, I mean, the turf is relatively new. It's only a couple years old. But what I go back to is, so I had a college football coach tell me today that Will Howard slips because he's 300 pounds and has terrible footwork, which is not at all true. He's not 300 pounds, and his footwork's actually pretty good for a quarterback. But that's what I'm being told by people that are, whatever. Anyways, the thing is the reason they went to turf in the first place, because up until the early 2000s, it was a natural grass field in Ohio Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Then they lowered the field about 15 feet, and the reasoning and the logic behind having turf was the field was too low. It was below the Olentangy River line, which is right next to the stadium. And if they put grass in, they would lead to flooding. So they had to have turf, which that might have been true back in the early 2000s. However, it's been about 20, 25 years. Things have changed. Technology has changed. There happens to be a stadium in the city of Columbus, just down the road from Ohio Stadium, that is also below the line and shouldn't be able to have natural grass. And that's Lower.com Field, where the Columbus Crew play. And they have some of the most pristine natural grass in all of professional sports. They get awards for it. They don't grow it right there. They grow it and bring it in, and they have a process, and it's an intricate process. But I promise you, Ohio State football has more money than the Columbus Crew. So there's no reason they can't do natural grass in that stadium. Just for everybody out there who wants to tell me, oh, they can't do it, it's impossible. No, it's not impossible. They're doing it up the road.
It's just wild to me that I get it. Everybody went to turf, like Notre Dame went to turf. Michigan has turf. Ohio State has turf. Like, why is it that, and I get it, it's cost effective, but
player safety has to play a role, and the more and more research, like when they went to turf, there wasn't a lot of research about this turf.
No.
But the more and more that comes out, it's less safe to play on. It might cost a little bit more money to have really good grass, but it's going to be worth it. I promise you. But outside of the turf, let's say it wasn't the turf. It's terrible to have. Obviously, they have a top 5 matchup this weekend. Indiana's coming into the Horseshoe to play on that turf, and they're going to have some question marks at offensive line. And what do you think? So obviously, right now, before the injury, it was Donovan Jackson, left tackle, Carson Hinsman, Seth McLaughlin, Tagra Shabola, and then Josh Fryer. Obviously, Seth can't play. Hinsman played center all last year. What do you think they should do or are going to do at that position? Do they just move Hinsman over and insert somebody like how do you say his name? Siev?
Zen?
No, Zen's done. I'll look it up.
Well, I think you move Hinsman back to center.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. I think you move him back to center. He knows he played
Austin
center.
Sierraveld. That's the guy that's going to be left guard.
Yeah, I think you leave Donnie where he's at, Sierraveld at left guard, and then Hinsman slides center.
The other option, they do have a kid, Padilla. Padilla has been the backup center all year. He's played snaps in games. He's been practicing with the twos all year long at center. He is, I believe he was a 4-star guard or center in high school in the Dayton area, was a pretty decent recruit in the 2022 class. So the other option is, and here's where I think you're right. I think what they're going to do is they're going to put they're going to leave Donovan Jackson at tackle. Obviously, Sierra Valde is going to come in at guard. Hinsman moves to center. You're going to leave the right side alone with Tegra and Fryer. But the other option is, because Carson Hinsman, the reason he wasn't the center anymore is because there are question marks about his ability to play center. And he played really well last week and against Penn State at the guard position. So do you really want to mess that up? Especially if Padilla can come in and be decent at center.
I guess at that point, I guess you just roll Padilla then and leave Hinsman
The only reason you don't is because of the experience. Like, Padilla has played some, but he doesn't have the experience that Hinsman has. So it'll be interesting to see. And this is what I told, because people are all over Justin Fry about the offensive line all year, even though they're a semifinalist for the offensive line of the year, even though they've dealt with injuries and they had one rough game against Nebraska, then figured it out, all these different things. They're all over him, and he should be fired. Why don't they have people developed? My response was, they haven't even played a game without Seth. Let's see what it looks like. Whatever they decide to do, I trust in Justin Fry and Chip Kelly and Ryan Day to get it right. And if they move Hinsman back to center and slide Sierra Valde in, that's fine. Let's see how it looks. If it doesn't look great, guess what? They showed us when they played Zen Mikowski at tackle that it didn't look great. So they bumped Donovan Jackson out, put Hinsman at guard, and they corrected it. Now, obviously, they don't have the luxury of having a bad game this week, because if they do, they might lose to Indiana. But I believe they'll make whatever decision they make. Let's see what it looks like before we just crucify guys.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And, it's Ohio State, and it's always wild that you've always got so much pressure on Justin Fry to, it's his fault. Whenever something goes wrong, it's his fault, or it's Ryan Day's fault. It's always fire everybody. So with that being said, I guess we'll reset the show here and get to the topic du jour. If you're out there watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and hit the like and subscribe button. That helps us out, and turn on your bell notifications. And then also December 7th, we have the live show at Cigario Cigar Lounge. So it's got a full bar, going to be fully stocked. If you're in the area, come on by. We're going to be going live conference championship Saturday. So with that being said, we're going to have, it's got bourbon, beer, cigars, TVs. So we're going to have
what more could you want?
Yeah, we're going to have a great setup. So it's going to be a great one. Just like the last one that we did, that last one was our first one, so we got some ways to improve this one. And thanks to the people at Cigar 30 for having us. It was very hospitable. And with that being said, hit the like and subscribe button. And next topic, Carter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, Zach told me, or Zach's in here, obviously. Green Bay, that's a crazy place to grow grass too. The climate isn't really for it, but he said it's a mix of grass and man-made turf. So, yeah, why not send up Mickey Marotti? He's the turf expert, apparently. Send him up to Green Bay, see how they do it. But, obviously, Notre Dame has a big game this week. They did what they needed to do last week against Virginia, looked a little slow out of the gates, took care of business. And then they got a big one this week against Army, but reports are starting to come out already. Obviously, 6th ranked team in the country, a lot of national attention to the Notre Dame team and the Notre Dame program with the brand that they have. And Marcus Freeman is leading this team. They control their own destiny for the most part. Just win out, you're in the playoffs. But it's being reported that there are a lot of NFL GMs and NFL people who have their eyes set on Coach Freeman to lead their franchise as early as next year. Tom Pellisario of, I believe it's NFL.com, came out with a report that said that a lot of NFL teams have inquired about Freeman after, starting as first as a GA at Ohio State and then eventually Notre Dame's head coach, obviously. He's an engaging presence. He will interview well if and when he's willing to take one. So he hasn't taken any interviews. He hasn't done anything like that. But as you go through this, I mean, obviously Notre Dame's a pressure-filled place. Could Marcus Freeman take Notre Dame to the playoffs this year and then jump ship and go to the NFL?
Okay, there's two ways to look at this. Marcus's buyout is not incredibly big.
Mm-mm.
It would have to be location and fit. For me, the problem you have is that his agent already represents a couple of NFL head coaches. So I'm not shocked by this.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the smoke last year is the agents stir this stuff up, because is Marcus Freeman going to get a raise? Is Notre Dame going to have to back up the Brinks truck? Do you want to back up the Brinks truck? That is the ultimate question, because his agent, can argue the point of, we're the number 6. He's made you the number 6 team in the nation, going to the playoffs for the first time. It is a chess game among the agents here. And when it comes down to it, they can float names out there to the media. And I would say as soon as the Notre Dame people heard this, they probably called up the agent and says, what is it going to take? Well, the NFL's got unlimited resources. So if an NFL team wants him, it's all up to Marcus if he wants to leave. He's 38 years old. He's still a young guy. I think a lot of people see what D'Amico Ryans did in Houston. It's hard to duplicate that because he does have CJ Stroud. That is a huge factor into this, in my opinion. But
yeah, but also the NFL is getting younger. You have D'Amico, you've got Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, you've got Matt LaFleur up in Green Bay, obviously Sean McVay out in LA. Like, there's all these young head coaches that are kind of taking the NFL by storm a little bit. Stefanski is not that much older than those guys in Cleveland. Across the board, it's getting younger. And so that's why I don't think it's out of the question. And like you said, the NFL or the agent already represents 2 NFL guys. He's got connections there. Zach Taylor about to get fired. Unfortunately for you, if you're a Bengals fan, ZD, Mike Brown and the Brown family, not real big on firing coaches.
Yeah, they're not big on paying people who don't work for them.
But I agree. But so that's why it's interesting. And D'Amico Ryans is a case study at this point. If you go to the right place and they have the number 1 pick or the number 2 pick in the draft, and they can trade up for number 3 and they get a stud quarterback and a stud defensive end, you can have success. Now, is that replicable? Not really. Like, where's he going to go? Is he going to go to Carolina? That's an ownership nightmare.
I would say no. I would say the Jets, no.
Yeah.
The New York Giants, if that comes available. Jacksonville, if that comes available.
I don't know if I like either one of those two, to be honest with you. I mean, Jacksonville I like more than the Giants. I mean, the Giants still have Danny Dimes for another 3 years.
This is just me looking at it from an outside looking in. I think
if I'm taking a job, I want a similar situation to what D'Amico walked into in Houston. I want a top 3 draft pick with no quarterback on the roster so that I can take my quarterback.
Danny Dimes is benched. I think the Giants are going to cut bait, and I think Shane's out. And although I think Dayball's a good coach, I just think that his GM that guy's bad. I get it. He's from Elkhart, Indiana, and the New York Giants have got to do something because he is bad.
Well, and the other thing you got to understand if you're a Notre Dame fan is Notre Dame can, if this is real, if this is a real possibility that he could go to the NFL, the only way Notre Dame keeps him is by offering him a contract that is significant. Yeah. As a Notre Dame fan, have you seen enough from him to this point where you're willing to put him onto a 5-year or probably about 7-year, $70 million contract where his buyout's going to be $50 to $60 million? And if it doesn't work out with the new landscape of college football, with revenue sharing, with the lower number of players, with all of that, it's going to be harder to move on from coaches. So if it doesn't work out, you're going to be stuck with him for 5 of those 7 years.
Yeah, that's
tough. That's tough, right? Because if he doesn't work out, you're stuck with him. I mean, I know Notre Dame has more money than a lot of places and everything like that, but they're still, at the end of the day, they're still running a business, and that business is to make money, and it's not to pay coaches who don't coach, which they've done a lot over the years, but they didn't have to pay the players.
Do you go? Yeah, I'm with the House versus NCAA is going to add an extra 20 to 25 million on there, and I hate, like, you know, I'm banging the drum on this, and you know, everybody's like, you know, I'm not seeing this, and then when it happens, you know, there's very few shows talking about this, and it's going to completely change the landscape of the roster limits and adding that extra money to certain schools, that it's going to put a big financial burden on them, because the school that I'm looking at right now is LSU and what they're going to do with your boy BK. And I know that's a separate topic.
I've told LSU fans, you're not getting rid of them. They're not going to get rid of them this year. Promise you. That's not going to happen.
Probably not this year, but if it starts bad next year, I think they're going to at least look at it.
He does this. This is what he does. You're going to have him for like 10 more years. I promise you, because he'll go 10-2 next year, and you'll be like, oh, he's not so bad. Trust me, I've been through this song and dance. He's had down years at Notre Dame too. It happens. It's just, that's Brian Kelly for you. You're never going to win anything, but you're not going to lose enough to fire him. But outside of that, and I don't think they'll do this, but this is what you're talking about. They could offer him $100 million over 10 years, and then you're talking about Jimbo Fisher level buyouts, but you're not going to have the money to do that anymore. That's why you have to be very careful if you're Notre Dame right now. And as much as you don't want to lose him to the NFL, unless he goes on a run in the playoffs and you know for sure this guy is it, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's just one of those. It's one of those deals that, you know, it's a finite detail. If it was me, I would go less on the years, more money up front, to where you're not backloaded.
Yeah, but but do you really want to give him a 3-year, $45 million contract? Because then you're still hooked for $45 million. And if it works out, you're just going to have to give him a raise again.
I think he gets a big second contract now, and then he's got to win something.
Yeah, possibly. But either way, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because this is going to be I'm not even showing that comment.
No.
First of all, I know Notre Dame compromises on a lot,
but
that will never happen. They'd still have some moral compass. So Tom Herman, I'll show it just so everybody can see it. Yeah, Tom Herman to Notre Dame, never gonna happen. I'm sorry. There's just too much that people know about him in the industry that Notre Dame. It's the same reason I don't want to say that Urban Meyer's not nearly as bad of a person. But it's the same reason I think that publicly Notre Dame could never hire Urban Meyer at this point, even though I would love if they did. There's just too much bad out there for him. But having said that, Notre Dame does play a game this weekend. We haven't had a lot of content Notre Dame wise to talk about because I'll be honest with you, it's a good thing because there haven't been massive injuries, there haven't been massive losses, they haven't played massive games. We talked about Florida State, that was fun. Virginia, we talked about a little bit because we knew what it was. But this one, this Saturday, this is actually a game. And you're talking about Army is going to be facing off with Notre Dame in Yankee Stadium. And Army has everything to play for. Obviously, Notre Dame does too. But I saw Marcus Freeman came out and said like he's making sure that they don't treat it like Navy 2.0. But this game's going to be interesting. We'll break it down more on Friday, kind of get into more of the nitty gritty of everything. But initial reactions, what do you think about this game? How do you feel about it?
The last couple weeks, Notre Dame has really been taking care of business, as BTO would say. They've been taking care of business. I think it's steady on the track, keep the train on the track, don't turn the football over. No dumb penalties, and just keep it moving.
Yeah, I mean they have taken care. They've gone through and they've done what's been asked of them. Right? They were asked to go out and dominate their schedule, which they've done. Right? I mean they beat Florida State handily. They beat Purdue handily. They beat Virginia handily. Like these aren't great teams, I know, but they didn't struggle with them. They went out and they took care of them, and they didn't play with their food, right? They demolished them. But this week is going to be a test. You're going to get Army's best shot, obviously, because this is it for Army. They win this game, they have their eyes set on the college football playoff. They have their eyes set on keeping the Big 12 out of the college football playoff, right? And
yeah.
The other things, this is great. Let's Notre Dame by 21. They're focused. It's why the NFL wants Marcus. He's unlocking a code. His intro, yeah, dude. That locker room scene, dude. When they oh my god, I still have that bookmarked. I watch it every now and then. When they introduced Marcus Freeman as the head coach, and the locker room goes nuts. That was next level. And I'll tell you what, and there's another clip, and Zach, I'll send it to you. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's another clip. Forget what a game it was. It might have even been this year, maybe Texas A&M. But he is in the tunnel getting his guys ready, and he's going back and forth, just pacing, pumping his guys up, and then he leads them onto the field. And, dude, the energy from that dude is so infectious. You're just like, man, I would run through a brick wall for him right now. Like that's where Marcus is elite, is he can connect with people. He can get the best out of people. He just needs to improve on little things, just managerial things, just not overlooking things and stuff like that. Like make sure you have 11 guys on the field. Make sure you guys aren't too confident after beating Texas A&M that you don't even think about Northern Illinois all week. Like little things like that.
Who were the three that were hired all together? And then we'll hit the games from the weekend. It was Matt Rule, Marcus Freeman, and who was the other coach? Luke Fickell.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it looks like Notre Dame. I think Matt Rule was farther away. I think his program was in a little bit more of a tailspin. So I think Matt Rule.
Yeah. Well, and this is a perfect point. You got to give him time on those things. He was young. The crazy thing about those three, all getting hired same year, all getting hired at the same time, Marcus is the only one that didn't have head coaching experience.
That's right. A good point.
So it makes sense for his programs to have these kind of issues, right? Where it's like it's stuff that like as a new head coach in college football, if you've never been a head coach, you're not used to having to manage the little things like that. Like as a defense coordinator, he's managing the defense, Brian Kelly was making sure the team was focused. He didn't have to worry about that. And when you get to head coach, you've never had to think about that, because why the fuck would they not be focused? Right? Like, that's not even a thought in your mind. Like, obviously we're focused on the task at hand. Like, I don't have to tell these kids not to overlook Northern Illinois. That's an obvious thing. But then you lose to them and you're like, oh shit, apparently they are 18 and 20-year-old kids. And I do have to be like, hey, dumbasses, lock in. Let's go. We got a game to win this week. We don't need to talk about what the media is saying, like all that stuff. And so that's learned as a head coach. I agree. But I do want to show, obviously this came out in July, but I think part of the reason Notre Dame wins this week, and I've been a verbal proponent of the Shamrock Series uniforms, but I've also been verbally very supportive of, hey, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. And these Shamrock unis are clean. I mean, just take a look. That's what Notre Dame's gonna be rocking this weekend. I mean, just If
I
you
mean,
don't like that,
that's a good uni. Also, I liked it when they played Georgia Tech. They wore the white pants.
yeah, I like that. That was a good look. And so, and I don't care what anybody says, especially if you're older. And I'm not. I love our older fans, but kids, this shit gets them going.
Yeah.
Right. I remember when I was at Dublin Kaufman, we had a kid by the name of Brady Quinn. Notre Dame fans, you might know him, who was at Notre Dame during the time he was leaving Notre Dame during the time I was at Kaufman. Went to the NFL, signed a deal with Nike, right? Normally, if you're a pro athlete, you sign a deal with Nike, they just give extra money to your university. Well, he went to Notre Dame. That was an Adidas school back then. So Nike couldn't give money to the university. So Nike told Brady, hey, we'll give money to your high school. And so Dublin Kaufman got Nike money. And so we got all these new uniforms. And, man, as soon as we saw these uniforms, man, I was 16, 17 years old. We were swagged out. We were getting Nike stuff for free. I agree. I think there's something clean about Notre Dame uniforms. But as soon as we put those uniforms on, I mean, we went 14-0. We felt good. We just look good, feel good, play good, baby. But Notre Dame uniforms always underrated. I agree. There's something classic about it, and that's why I like what they did with this Shamrock series. I hate when they put anything on the helmet. Like the Shamrock series where they put the green Shamrock on the helmet. Miss me with that. Leave the helmet alone. When they mess with the uniform a little bit.
I still like the split helmet where it was gold and then they had the Fighting Irish on the side.
Nope.
I like that.
Miss me. Keep it gold. Just a normal gold helmet. That's all you need. You know what? There's very few schools in the country that don't mess with the helmet, and the ones that don't are because they're iconic, right? Bama, Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame. You don't mess with the helmet.
At Bama, they put the houndstooth on the jersey collar, and people freaked out. But
yeah, you don't fuck with Bama. Don't fuck with Bama. Don't fuck with, like, I swear, if they ever change, like, I know they wore the throwbacks the one year as the 1942 throwbacks with like the white helmets with the numbers on them for Ohio State. Shit was awful.
I like the Cannonball helmets when they wore the black helmets.
Yeah, that's, I mean, fine, whatever. Want to wear those one off, cool. Give me the silver bullet helmets. Give me the winged helmet at Michigan. Give me the gold helmet at Notre Dame. Give me, just give me the normal helmets for those schools. Now, if you're Oregon and you have no tradition, give me a million different combinations of whatever your dumbass can think of.
But yeah, so with that being said, we'll go ahead and reset for the last little segment here before we hop out of here tonight. If you're watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube. The chat's been very active tonight. We got a lot of people engaging in it. Come on over to YouTube, hit that like and subscribe button, help us grow this thing. We got the Cigario Lounge, December 7th.
Cigarro. There's
Cigarro.
no Cigarro.
Cigarro. Cigarro Lounge. Championship weekend. We're gonna have bourbon. It's got a fully stocked bar, all kinds of cigars. But yeah, with that being said, turn on the bell notifications and hit the like and subscribe. And so, with that being said, let's call up a comment here because somebody
Okay.
has been this one right here. Because Carter is gator bait.
Hey, I was wrong. I admit it. I was wrong. I thought Billy was cooked. I did not expect him to upset LSU. I thought 5-7 was the ceiling, and I should have known better. As a Notre Dame fan, I should have known better. Of course, Brian Kelly was going to lose that game. But no, Billy, I said, even when I said Billy should be fired, even when I said their ceiling was 5-7, I said that I didn't think it was because Billy's a bad coach.
No,
I just thought that there was no way that Florida allows you to go 5-7 and keep your job. Now they're going to go 6-6. So I was right in that regard. They weren't. I mean, they supported him, so maybe they would have. I don't know. Who knows? But he's going to go 6-6. He's going to keep his job. He might go 7-5. I haven't counted out this week.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't. I think one of the top teams on upset alert this week is Ole Miss.
And so I know. I think, when did I show it? Did you guys show it yesterday? I forget. I think you guys showed it yesterday. The swamp.
Oh, the swamp.
So here's one thing I didn't have is I didn't have the swamp getting back to 2006. And when I looked at the environment for the LSU game, that was prime time 2006 Florida Urban Meyer era. And I didn't think the swamp would get back to that this year because of how bad I thought Florida would be, or not even how bad, just how tough their schedule would be. And if I had known that would happen, I might have picked the home games a little differently because it is impossible. It is impossible to go into the swamp if it's rocking like that.
And the crazy thing is that if all these teams get into the playoff, would you say Miami's a playoff team? If they win the ACC, they're going to be a playoff.
Oh, if they win, yeah, they're in. Yeah.
Texas beats Texas A&M, playoff team.
Yeah.
Okay. Tennessee.
But A&M also beat Florida, so either way, that's a playoff team.
So, follow me where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I'm following.
Tennessee.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Tennessee, maybe. We'll see.
Georgia.
Also, maybe.
Texas.
I thought we already said Texas.
No, Texas. Is Texas Texas?
If they beat A&M, yes.
So out of, let's say Billy has 6 losses this year, which would be Ole Miss, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, A&M, Miami. 5 of his 6 losses would come to teams that made the college football playoff.
Possibly. Probably 3.
Because I would say Miami's going to get in.
Yeah, Miami's in. Either Texas or Texas A&M's in, so that's 2. Ole Miss. Well, I don't know. Because here's the thing. 4 of those 5 losses are in the SEC. So you're telling me those 4 SEC schools get in, but Bama's going to get in too. So you're telling me the SEC is going to get 5 schools in? I don't believe that.
I think Tennessee is going to get left out because of whatever.
Yeah, so I would say three of those 5's definite playoff teams. The other 2 are fringe playoff teams, so they're still good teams.
So yeah, it's going to be an interesting, and it's a noon kickoff, and then he ends the year with Florida State, and I think that
it would be the most like almost the most Florida thing ever if they beat LSU, they go lose to Ole Miss, and you're like, all right, they're going to go 6-6, and then they find a way to lose to Florida State. Just the most Florida thing ever with how Florida's been over the past decade. Like, come on, can't we have anything nice? Like, we finally had some momentum.
Because realistically, he would end up with a 500 record in the SEC, and I think that a lot.
With that schedule, that's impressive, especially with the team he has now. Lagway, I think if Lagway is the starter the whole year and doesn't have any injury issues, I think this team goes 7-5.
I think they beat Georgia.
I think they beat Georgia. I think they maybe beat Miami.
I don't know. I watched that game film. The Florida looked bad on defense against Miami.
Yeah, I know Miami's bad on defense too, but
so yeah,
I get what you're saying. But anyways, yes, I'll eat my crow. Billy Napier's going to keep his job. They're going to go better than the 5-7, but I promise you, they're not going to go better than the 8-4 I was promised by Florida fans this summer.
That is true. I think 9-3 was one of the predictions,
Yeah.
but I don't think that was out of the realm of possibility if you had Gator glasses on and Lagway started all year. Now next year, I think that Billy's got to
look out.
Billy, I'd be looking out for the Gators, but also, so Florida stuns LSU.
Stunned LSU, obviously. Talked about that. I mean, the environment was crazy. I have friends that are LSU fans. They were calling for Brian Kelly's head on a spike, which just made my day.
Georgia dominates Tennessee. Tennessee looked bad on offense. Well,
and Carson Beck played probably his best game of the year. He played as good as I've seen him play all year, and he looked like what people thought he would be. He just hadn't done it all year. So if he keeps that going, they could be a formidable opponent in the playoffs.
And then we have BYU goes down to Kansas. If I'm Colorado, I think they're the other team on upset alert. That game's at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
And it could be a weird environment is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep. And doesn't BYU have Arizona State this weekend?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm telling you, watch out for the Sun Devils.
And yeah, that's going to be the Sun Devils could wreck the entire party. And then Oregon avoids the Wisconsin upset.
Yep.
With all that going on at Wisconsin, I think. All right. This will be the last thing. Oregon avoids it, and then we'll get to Zach's comment here.
Okay. Be honest, BYU, Boise, Indiana, maybe even Penn State. Those four. Who beats Tennessee on a neutral site? Okay. I would say of the four you give me, Penn State has the best chance, in my opinion. I think Indiana has a decent chance. I just haven't. I need to see more from Indiana. Indiana hasn't faced anybody with a pulse. When I talk about rankings, I can't hold that against them. But when I'm going to pick a game, I'm going to be objective. And so I'll tell you for sure after this Saturday if I think Indiana stands a chance. I think Penn State does because I think Penn State's defense is actually good. Penn State's defense played well enough against Ohio State to keep them, and Ohio State shot themselves in the foot, don't get me wrong. But I've seen Penn State face one of the top programs in the country. And so I would say Penn State's the only one of those four that I would give a decent shot at beating Tennessee. Now, after Saturday, if Indiana's defense is able to stick to their rankings and show me they're legit, I think anybody with a defense that can slow Nico down gives their team a shot. Nico hasn't been lights out. I think that Tennessee offense is okay. They're not great. Tennessee's defense is pretty good, but I think Indiana's offense can handle that. Penn State. So, yeah, I would say Indiana and Penn State maybe have a chance. My best bet would be Penn State. Yeah. The other two, I think, don't have a shot in hell.
I don't know. We'll find out what Indiana is this weekend.
Yep.
So, but anyway, with that being said, like and subscribe. Cigaro Lounge, December 7th. We'll be there watching games, hanging out. With that being said, if you're watching on Twitter, hit the like. Come on over and hit the like and subscribe button, and so you can watch on YouTube, and helps us grow the show. So, with that being said, Carter, you got anything else?
No, absolutely not. Thanks everybody for tuning in. The boys, Richie and Duke, will be back tomorrow night. And then we'll figure out Friday. Friday night, it'll be either me and Richie or all three of us or something. And then Saturday, who knows?
Yeah, Saturday, who knows? Because we're probably going to be fighting the traffic. And it's either going to be a really, really good weekend in Columbus or a really, really bad weekend in Columbus. So, with that being said, Vanderbilt beats LSU. I actually probably agree with you on this one. I would not count out Vandy. Jerry Kill effect is real, but with that being said, everybody hit the like and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow at 7:30. All right, everybody have a good night.